is going on, everybody? Welcome in to the North End Podcast, episode 93. My name is Zach Graham, your host here in the North End, joined, as always, by my good buddy. He's on record as my best friend. His name is Ian Michaud, and we call him E, a.k.a. Lee James, a.k.a. Sebastian Drew Easy, a.k.a. Almost Stradamus, a.k.a. Pappy O'Daniel, a.k.a. The Fashionista, a.k.a. Chili Willy, a.k.a. Joe E. Chestnut, a.k.a. Ian Stonkel. I had to go with the long intro there because I knew you would appreciate that one. Both of us almost knocking down the 3-1 prediction from this past Austin FC match. Alas, not to be. But I know, man, I know you've been feeling a little bit under the weather since the game the other night. So how you feeling?
I've definitely been better. Obviously, as people can hear from my voice, I'm not 100% by any means. Couldn't really talk too much yesterday. I think I'm probably going to have to do another COVID test and see. Maybe that's what we're working with. But, it could be allergies. This Austin FC club seems to have allergies to victories. And I don't know, man, that was one of the lowest points of the season for me. This has been the season from hell that just keeps on giving. And I appreciate everyone bearing with me as I do my best. It takes me back to episode 1 when I sounded like
oh, I forgot about that.
Oh my God, I sounded like Tom Waits, just coughing all over. Didn't know the mute button existed.
Yeah.
So if I start coughing, I will mute this time, y'all. But yeah, I appreciate everyone bearing with me here.
Well, I appreciate you battling through. So it's not totally me talking 100% of the time, even though it's close to that every episode. Maybe a little bit more ZG here on episode 93. We're gonna recap the 3-3 draw against the LA Galaxy. We'll touch on last business day, of course, Austin FC 2 closing out the regular season slate on decision day, and then going through the first round selection process or quarterfinal selection process today. And of course, we'll talk the nonsense and everything in between. So let's start with the Galaxy match. And of course, as we always do, reacting to the lineup. We were waiting all day on that injury report, because Hedges had been out, Kip Keller, Adam Lundqvist, and then Will Bruin, of course, with the concussion. And we were worried about Seba with the way coach addressed him coming off against Red Bull. Ended up Seba not on the injury report, in there and started. Did end up going down in very concerning fashion. We'll talk about that here in a little bit. Questionable tags on Hedges and Lundqvist, if I recall correctly. But neither of those guys ended up on the bench. The starting lineup, Stuver was in net, back line, Gali, Cascante, Lima, and Leo. Johan in there again, Danny, Ring, Seba, Emmy, and Ethan Finley. So we got to see Emmy up there playing that, the striker role, false nine, whatever you want to call it. And obviously we'll talk about it along the way. He looked pretty good again in that spot. Bench of Redis, Las, Wolf, Hector Jimenez, CJ, Brandon Craig, Will Bruin, who did obviously make the bench. So cleared that concussion protocol, Memo, and Maxi. Any takes for you on that lineup? I know I was just extremely excited that Seba was in there and starting. That's kind of what we had thought before that injury report came out. And again, the injury report was delayed until 90 minutes before the original kickoff time. So man, it was a wild day coming in, and then obviously gets wild later on. What were your takes on the lineup when we finally saw it?
Again, fine with the 11. I am just so disappointed with the Hedges situation, because it's like, he was dealing with injuries in Toronto, and we had kind of just been like, well, they could have been playing it safe because they're trying to shop him, and, you don't want him to get hurt and tank his value. But, man, he's been dealing with stuff that I don't think he was dealing with in Toronto here. And I know he's a vet and he's been around for a while, but as someone who was really excited about him, like, getting in there and being part of the rotation, it's been difficult to see that he just, like, hasn't been available in crucial parts of this season right now from where we've had him. And then with the Brandon Craig situation, I don't know why he's on the bench per se. Like, have we just been like, okay, because at this point, it has to just be about the GAM we would be sending back, right? Like, why else would he not be playing? So I don't know if it's just like, they have 200,000 GAM like set aside where it's like, hey, if all of our center backs get hurt and we have to, like, someone gets
right,
we have to bring Brandon Craig in. We have this money set aside for that. But so that situation is confusing as well. So in regard to who we had available, I think this roster was fine. And again, we had an 11 out there that had an opportunity to get the job done and secure 3 points. And it's just been such a nightmare season where, this is a new one for us, really, choking one away in these last moments. And fucking Joveljic, man.
That guy's a nightmare for us, man.
He kills us.
And we were telling him, we were down in the North End during warmups. We were telling Dayon, we're like, hey, man, you come down to Austin. We need some striker depth. He's certainly put on his best audition against Austin over the last 2 years. I mean, just the tape of him against this team is pretty damn impressive. I was just making sure because you brought up the Brandon Craig GAM. I think it's very clear that the reason this kid is not playing, I think, is twofold. Number one, the conditional GAM that likely transfers if he steps onto the pitch. And if we don't, which I think you and I are 100% resigned to, as we were already leaning into it going into this match, that this team is not going to make the playoffs, why would we hand Philly with 125,000 in GAM from the press release? Why would we just give that away if we have nothing to build for the rest of this season? And again, this team not mathematically eliminated, but it feels like when you bring any modicum of reality into the situation, it's bleak at best right now. So
yeah, if it's a break in case of emergency situation, then just let the ship go down.
Yes.
We haven't done anything to turn it around in these last 2 months.
Yeah.
2.5 months. Like, we have not done anything to change the course of the season after, the debacle with St. Louis.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, I think it's fair to extend it to the League's Cup. Because while none of us really had, I think, expectations that we were going to win the League's Cup.
Well,
I think
Hayes.
Yeah, you're right. He might did pick Austin to win the whole thing. I think most everybody. I don't think I saw anybody saying, Austin's not getting out of this group coming into that group stage. So It started with that, and snowball effect is the best phrase I can come up with to where we are now.
It has been unlike a season that I have ever been a part of in fandom, in playing. It's just been something where it's like, it's usually you're looking at other teams and you're just like, well, how can that keep happening?
Yeah.
But it's happening here to us, and it's been awful.
Yeah, and I think that, just if we can talk about our own fandom as you bring that up, like, some of it we're lucky, whether fandom is based on geography or following a certain player. Like, we've been very lucky to be fans of teams and players who are consistently successful. And I know for my own teams, when they've been bad, they're in sports where, especially like the NBA, right? The Spurs were awful last year on purpose, right? Because they are incentivized to lose just based on the way that league is set up and the rules and guidelines are in the NBA. But yeah, in a league like MLS where, look, like I if you're not going to make the playoffs, I would love to have the number 1 pick in the super draft, but we know that Danny Pereiras aren't sitting in every single MLS super draft. It's just not, it's not really comparable to the other like popular leagues. I feel like.
I agree.
Anyways, enough of that. Let's get into this match here. Because again, I'm not going to make Sick E go for 90 minutes here on a Tuesday afternoon. This one gets started. 3rd minute. John Gallagher gets a yellow card, and I think deserved here. Comes together with Ricky Pooch on a duel. Ricky barely gets there first, but it is what it is. And Johnny takes him out, and Ricky rolls his ankle really bad here. Stays down for a while, and I think ends up coming out like About 10 minutes later, he's on the sideline for the second time, gets his ankle retaped, comes back out there, ends up playing the majority of the game. But I mean, it helped us for a while that Ricky Pooch was not at full strength. You hate to see it happen that way. But there's no getting around that certainly helped Austin, that Ricky Pooch, the Galaxy's best player, was just hobbling for the majority of the match.
Yeah, not intentional by Johnny, just a bang kind of play, and it happens and it's tough. But yeah, it was good that he wasn't out there.
11th minute here, and over that first 10, 11 minutes, there was some down and back, a few counter chances by the Galaxy. Teams kind of feeling each other out, feeling out the pitch after the completely glossed over for those who were living under a rock on Sunday, the 2.5 hour weather delay that affected the start of this game. I'm pretty surprised that they ended up playing. Kickoff, I think, was like 11:38 Central Time or something like that. I did enjoy our time hanging out with Uncle Dave and Aggie, and we got to talk to Brad for a long time. It was great to get to know him a little bit more. But man, yeah, I mean, it made for an odd environment in the stadium with, I think less than half of the stadium full. Shout out to everybody who toughed that out, whether you were in the stands, even at home, staying up for that match.
Right.
Everybody in the press box, all the staff members who can't go anywhere until they postpone the game. It was a long night for everybody, and only a few people left Q2, I think, with any sort of smile on their face, and they were wearing white and blue.
Yeah, for sure. Those weather delays, man. I can't imagine what it's like as a player, being prepped, ready to go, amped up, your adrenaline, trying to get to the game, like get ready for this game and be in the game. And then you have to deal with this almost 3-hour break. But those weather delays, they're rough on the liver and wallet for sure.
Yeah.
Yes, it was great to talk to Aggie for a while there and talk some hoops a little bit too. And that story about him hanging up a basketball hoop and stuff, that was pretty great.
Yeah. 11th minute, Austin building up here down the left. And I thought John Gallagher was a menace on that left side in the first half. He was really effective with his positioning, his movements, his passing. Danny finds him here down that left sideline. John puts in a cross that finds Rigoni, and he takes a touch that falls like right into the path of Alex Ring, who's entering the area. They're kind of left center of net, and Ring puts a great strike on it to bury it in the net past Jonathan Bond. I'm not sure Emmy meant to set Alex up like that, but I'll give him the benefit of the doubt and say nice assist there. And great to see Cap get on the scoreboard again. I mean, we call him Cap, not wearing the armband on the night, but we know what he brings to the team. Like, I think I saw somebody say that he may not be our captain, but he's our general out there. And I thought that was a fantastically accurate way to put what Alex Ring has done and continue to do for this team throughout the season. Whenever he's called upon, wherever it is on the pitch, and whatever has gone on off the pitch, that guy fucking brings it when he's between those lines.
Yeah, he brings it for himself. He holds himself to a high standard. And when you get a goal out of him like this is the peak. This is what you like. If you get this out of Alex Ring, that is fantastic. You get that bonus, that goal. And as you mentioned before, the teams were definitely feeling each other out to start. And this was kind of like that first break. And I also don't know if Rigoni meant to do it, but we'll definitely take it as we inch closer towards the 10th assist.
Yeah. Like I mentioned, Ricky Pooch, after the Austin goal, goes back to the sideline, gets retaped. And then in the 16th minute here, he almost turns it over at the back. And Chris Mavinga does a pretty good job to keep the ball away from Rigoni, who was trying to come in and get a cheap one. And we would have loved to see that. And Mavinga sweeps it away, and Yoshida springs the attack and right to Diego. And Diego, as we hadn't mentioned that yet, Diego, of course, getting the start in his return back to Austin. And I got to tell you, man, both in person and on the rewatch, it was more jarring for me to see him at Q2 in the other team's jersey than I even thought it was going to be. I did not like it.
No, it did not add any joy to my night in any way. It was very strange. It was odd. But I thought he played well. He was impactful as he is.
Yeah. Well, I mean, in this instance, Yoshida hits Diego, and Diego plays a great ball into Billy Sharp, who was also giving us trouble. It didn't end up finding the back of the net, but that old man, relative to your typical MLS age,
Yep.
man, it would be nice to pick up somebody like that in a summer transfer window. He gets behind the Austin back line. Luckily, his shot goes wide right. 10 minutes later, Chris Mavinga trying to get to a ball that was over the top targeting Seba. And he does get his head to it and get it out for a corner, but pulls his groin immediately. Like that was a rough injury there for him.
Yeah.
I would not be surprised if he's not back this season for the Galaxy, and Zavaleta comes in to replace him. But there was a significant delay there getting him off the pitch.
I would imagine that the pitch was not of the highest quality. And I mean, we've seen the groin stuff that we've dealt with here, and just another person getting the groinal demons up at Q2.
Yeah.
But, speedy recovery to him. It wasn't a good one.
No. 29th minute here. Obviously only hear this on the broadcast. The color commentator, Kendra St. Aubin. Not familiar with her name, so I'm probably butchering that, but I found it interesting that in the 29th minute, she said something that was very similar to what you and I have been saying at times this season about number 10. She said, Driussi's frustration is palpable. You can see his head kind of hanging and you understand his frustration, but he's wearing the captain's armband. Those are the moments you have to find a way because everybody on your team feeds off of that. And so, I don't know if that was something that she has, I'm sure this season that commentary team has been on an Austin game before and she's noticed that. And these announcers watch film coming in. They get, they talk to the coaches and the teams before game day. But man, I think it's even worse if she didn't have any of that planned and is just able to pick that up in the first half hour of this match, especially when we're up 1-0, man. The body language is not great. But that's nothing new for this squad this year, especially over the last couple months.
Yeah, I mean, he's the one that everyone is going to look to, and we need him up. We need him positive. As difficult as, I mean, it's easy for me to say it sitting up here and not in battle and have lost for 2.5 months when the guy has already, gone on record so many times saying the only thing I care about is winning games. And, when you're not winning games, everything really sucks. And, the old saying, nothing cures it like a win. You don't have one for this long. It's brutal.
36 minute here. Diego again, now off leading the break. And here, and holy cow, this man, Jhojan Valencia, dude, like a heat-seeking missile.
Yeah.
Comes in from behind, takes the ball off Diego cleanly. And we'll talk about him, over the course of the rest of this match. But like Jhojan continued, I felt like, the stellar level of play we saw against Red Bulls, specifically starting in that second half of that midweek game. So that play quickly turns to Emmy playing Seba through with what I thought was a great ball. And Seba, kind of right center of net here, has a good look, at least from the broadcast angle. And I think where we were sitting down, it was the South End podcast on Sunday night. So he cuts it back towards the middle, and I think, clearly trying to get a better angle. Bond was in position, defenders closing down, but that touch back towards the middle gets away from him. Bond deflects the eventual shot and then scoops up the rebound. But again, man, I know a lot there. Jhojan Valencia, this is not the last time we're going to talk about him here. But again, creating chances here in the first half. And I think ultimately it was a good first half for Austin FC.
I agree. And I mean, with all the negativity surrounding the club right now and our performances and all the stuff that's going on around this, the noise around it all, this is a nice positive to see that he's kind of been unleashed. He's playing a lot more free. He's playing a lot more confident. And it, like you said, it continued from that last game into this half. And I don't know if, he's just kind of thrown caution to the wind and been like, I got to play my game. I've been trying to fit in. And, as LeBron said, sometimes you got to fit out and do your thing. And he has been showing out, and that's a great sign. Just adds a lot more depth and versatility for us.
Yeah. I mean, if he is playing anywhere near this level, it's a different player than what we've seen in his almost 2 years here now. And so again, I am certainly not convinced that that's the Jhojan Valencia that we will get going forward over a longer sample size. But if it is, fantastic. Like we'll take it. And if he's at that level, man, like he is the pair with Danny. And we see in this game, we'll get to it. Danny was a little bit more free, I think, in my eyes, with Jhojan back there. I think there's something to that pairing right now, even if it's not getting us 3 points, week in and week out.
Yeah, I mean, we'll try to build on what we can, but I agree. It both of them looked way more free and just involved in the game, in their own capacity. Like it was nice to see with those two.
38th minute, Galaxy building up here down the right side. Pretty good pass here from Boyd to Raheem Edwards out on the left. And then Edwards finds Ricky Pooch, who's just charging into the box and rips a shot on net, just one times it. And luckily blocked away by Leo off the line because I don't think Brad was getting there. Yeah. And then Johnny G clears it out. Galaxy stay in possession. And then Valencia again just taking the ball off Sharp. And Sharp goes to the ground. And this is what, holy shit, man, Valencia chirps him too. I don't know if you saw it.
Yeah.
What has gotten into this man?
I don't know, man. He's playing with confidence. He's playing with a lot of confidence, and it's just elevated his game. It's fantastic.
And, this is the player that we paid an exorbitant transfer fee for. This is the player that won the Colombian championship 2 years ago. Mm-hmm. I don't know, man. Maybe I'm just trying to latch on to the few positives that we had from the night, but he's a guy that's going to be here next year, if I recall correctly. I can pull up the cap sheet we have right here, but I'm pretty sure he's here next year.
And more power to him. And look, man, I with how fast all of this moves and how fast the games come in, I think it could probably get lost that it's, a difficult adjustment for someone like him to come over here to the MLS, play a completely different style of game, and try to fit in. And it looks like he has figured something out. I don't know what it is, but he has figured it out, and it looks good.
So, after he regains possession for Austin here, Austin off and running, Finley puts in a cross it's like a 5-on-5 situation here, if I recall correctly. His cross gets headed out to the feet of Driussi, and he takes a shot from the left edge of the box that gets deflected out for a corner. And then that corner is to the near post and flicked up into the air by none other than Jhojan Valencia. 2 games in a row getting his head to one of those short crosses. Seba gets taken down in the box trying to jostle for this ball coming down out of the air. Calls for the pin are unanswered by Ted Uncle. And I didn't think in the moment or on replay that there was much in that at all.
I agree.
43rd minute, Julio takes out Ricky Pooch inside the area. Pooch stays down. Ted Uncle stops the game for the injury, and then during that injury break is called by the video assistant referee to go review it at the monitor. You look on the replay, man, Julio stomps his foot. So the penalty, I think, correctly given there. But it does give me flashbacks to when Diego Fagundes had his boots stepped on very clearly in the Western Conference Final, and the penalty was not given. So I'm not sour about that still or anything. But Ricky ends up taking the penalty, and Stuver saves it, but the ball kind of spins off his gloves. He guesses right, the ball hits him in the hands. Yep. And it spins over the line. So unlucky there, and we're all even at 1.
Ricky's fun, man. I like watching him play. He really loves to play soccer. He's a great player. But this ball, of course, it rolls backwards into the net,
Yep. But then how about this? We get 4 minutes of stoppage time, and because of the delay and all the injuries, Ted Uncle adds a little bit more time. We're in the 6th minute of first half stoppage time here. Austin, again, working on the left, this time Danny and John and Alex Ring over there combining on that left side. John ends up with it, I think, after Danny had tapped it to him, and John drives right on that inline and puts in a cross, and it squirts through past a couple defenders and Jonathan Bond, who had laid out to try to get a hand to it. And then Finley and Raheem Edwards are running towards that ball coming through, and Ethan barely able to beat Edwards to that, get a foot to it, and it dribbles across the line into the net. And how about that? Austin FC responds well to getting scored on.
The old reverso uno card. Ethan Finley, right place, right time. Just another guy who shows up, puts his hard hat on, comes to work, and does his job. So I'm happy that he was on the score sheet for sure.
Yeah. So we go to half, up 2-1. Coming out of the half, Mike. What's that?
What a feeling.
Yeah, I know. Lead at the half? Holy cow. Right out of the half, Michael Barrios does come in for Tyler Boyd. A little bit of rotation for the road team there.
He's
also playing. What's that?
He's a menace, man.
Barrios?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love his game too. Like he, and that's part of the reason why I was so concerned about this club, because they have talent and they went through that rough stretch and everything. But Barrios is another guy I enjoy watching, and he made an impact on this game.
Yeah, and being able, again, with the damn sanctions that they had on them this summer, that they were able to bring in Billy Sharp and Diego Fagundes and Michael Barrios, and I think one or two other players that I'm forgetting, Edwin Cerrillo from Dallas.
Yep.
Is well done by their new look front office there.
Had to do something.
Yeah, 48th minute.
They did well.
Yeah, 48th minute here. Diego's got the ball near midfield, and Julio slides at him, trying to take it away, and Diego turns, starts the 3-on-1 break here. And then he gets the ball onto Billy Sharp, and that gets blocked out by Galley. But I'm not sure what Julio Cascante is doing 40 yards from net, trying to slide at Diego in that situation. And man, it was coming off the yellow card suspension. I think it was another poor outing from number 18.
It was not a great showing from most of the defensive unit, in my opinion. And this is just one of those plays that really sticks out. And it's just like, why? Why? So got fortunate. Diego has a nice little chemistry with Billy Sharp, though, from the few matches I've watched between the two.
Yeah. 50th minute. Driussi finds Rigoni here, and the break is on. Rigoni gets it out to Galley, and then he slides it even further left of the area to Ring. Obviously, Austin headed towards the north end here in the second half. His cross finds Rigoni's head from about 10 yards out, and Rigoni puts a nice headed chance on frame. Jonathan Bond's able to tap it over the bar out for a corner. That corner gets cleared out, but then recycled back in by Austin from the right side. Alex Ring fired across him from outside the box, and he finds Emmy on the far post now, on the left side, just outside the 6. And I can't really tell if it looked like a shot that wasn't on target. Could have maybe been trying to put it back in, just back into the blender there, but it goes across the face of goal and out for a goal kick. But again, Austin up 2-1 and not sitting back, and I like to see that in the moment. Absolutely.
Rigoni's best game ever.
Yeah.
Right.
Off the top of my head, I cannot think of one that stands out as clearly above what we saw on Sunday night and / Monday morning.
I mean, he looked fantastic. I think that this was his best game and probably his best run of form. So he looked good.
Well, shit, are we going to get these guys that we've been waiting for all year, even over a year, and then now when the stakes have almost completely evaporated, that now they're gonna go off. Not taking anything away from him. He played quite well. 58 minute here again. Austin building up again really nicely in that offensive third. Seba finds Nick Lima to break a line down that right side, and Lima charges forward in possession. He fires it across to Rigoni, who's streaking in behind that back line. He can't quite get to it, and the flag was up anyways. But again, Austin out of the half, continuing to press for another goal, looking for that insurance on top of the lead they already had. The next minute, though, and this is like the game was pretty open and free the entire night, but the last half hour here was pretty bonkers. The next minute, Galaxy going the other way off that free kick. Diego finds Raheem Edwards on the left, and Edwards cross skirts all the way through to Michael Barrios, and Barrios crosses back in from the right, and he finds Sharp. Stuver makes a great save to preserve the lead at this point. And I think this was one thing on the rewatch that I changed my mind about, because the way the game ends, I had a pretty down feeling about Brad's performance. Dude, until the last 7-8 minutes, Brad was pretty damn good in this one.
Yeah, no, we just couldn't see it through to the end. And, we kind of talked about it, hinted at it when we were previewing the game, that these are two teams that need 3 points desperately. So the game was just going to come down to, it was just going to be an open, free kind of game. And we did not see it through to the end, but Brad got us damn close.
Yeah, he did. 69th minute here. You see Joveljic and Cerrillo in there for Rosell, and Diego coming off there, getting about 70 minutes in at Q2 2 minutes later, Jhojan Valencia, again, taking it right off Ricky Pooch. And again, chirps him, gestures, get your ass up. And like, this is the type. Oh, I know I'm just repeating myself about Valencia at this point, but like, it's one of the only things we have to be excited about, I feel like, at this point. So I'm just hoping that continues, man. And I love the attitude from him there. Like, we need some bite in this team.
The Felipe wasn't the most talented player, but he had a little bite to his game, and we have sorely missed that this season.
Yeah, for sure. 75th minute here, Austin in possession. Leo plays it up the middle for Alex Ring, who taps it right back to Danny Pereira. And then Danny with a gorgeous through ball to Emi Rigoni, who is in behind the back line, one on Bond, and finishes – pretty nice finish, too. Bangs it into the back of the net. And like, to me, the guys looked pretty tired during the celebration, but there were still a lot of big fist pumps. Alex goes over to the few fans that are there in the north end, pumping them up. There's a lot of fist pumps and fuck yeahs in this celebration. Yeah. And I'm sure that all of those guys, just like us in the stands, were thinking, that's the winner. The game is over.
Yeah.
Up 3-1 here in the 75th minute.
Yep. And then the season from hell gives you another gift.
Yep.
Dude, I can't even imagine what these guys are going through to go up 3-1 like this and only get a point from it when we need one so badly.
Owen comes in for Jhojan right after the goal. And then in the 80th minute, Ricky Pooch goes down again. He's subbed off for one of their academy products, Jonathan Perez. There was also a VAR check during this break for a potential handball on Julio, and luckily no penalty was called there. Can you imagine if Julio gave up 2 penalties in one game after the way he's been playing? Just I feel like he's lucky that there are other things that obviously the Wolf out fervor is, grows with every game. And at this fucking point, why wouldn't it?
Of course.
But like, oh man, Julio very lucky that call, was correct. I didn't think it was a handball on the replay, but that would have been a nightmare too.
Yeah, don't want to think about it.
84th minute here, Cerrillo given a delayed yellow after trucking Danny, frustration foul to the ground a few plays earlier. And then in the 85th, here's where, again, when you're injecting the reality into the playoff scenario, mathematically not eliminated, but in the 85th minute here, Sebastian Driussi goes down, grabbing his right hamstring. We kind of thought that was what was going on in the Red Bull match, where it felt a little pull. We know he's dealt with lower body soft tissue issues at various times throughout this season. Missed a month plus in May and June. You can see on this replay that he's got that KT tape on the back of his right hamstring. So I imagine that is the same hammy that was giving him issues in the middle of the week. And I think his facial expressions coming off the pitch tell you what you need to know. I do not think we see him again this season. And I think best case scenario, this team gets 7 points over the next 3 matches. And okay. Yeah. And then you have a chance to go get 3 on decision day. And maybe by October 21st, he's fit to play some minutes. But maybe I'm just trying to protect myself here in terms of my emotions about this team.
Yeah.
I currently have him checked off as done for the season in my eyes, the way he reacted coming off the pitch there.
I'd give him a half check, but yeah, it looks really grim. And I know that, he's going to, like I said, he's a winner, man. He wants to win games, and I know he wants to be out there. And for that to happen, just a gut punch, man, just brutal. And it's been a frustrating season for him, and for that to happen there, tough.
Memo and Maxi come on for Seba and Ethan Finley. 86th minute here, Galaxy on the break. Leardom crosses into Joveljic, and Brad, another very solid save here from close range. The very next minute, Billy Sharp feeding Joveljic in the box, and Stuver with another great save. And I also thought on this particular play, Joveljic probably could have done better to finish his chance there, which is the only time we've said that about Dejan Joveljic in a game recap against Austin FC.
Yep.
88th minute here. Danny wins a ball in the midfield on a nice challenge, and then plays another beautiful through ball down to Memo on the right. And Memo in position to get the fourth goal there and really start the party. He can't finish. Galaxy win possession back. They go the other way, down the left through Billy Sharp, who puts in a cross that finds Jovelic's head, getting it past Stuver, pulling one back. In the notes here, it says this motherfucker Jovelic is our worst nightmare. And I also think on this one, Stuver could have done better. But again, the man's been pelted over the last 10, 15 minutes.
What'd they end up with, like 22 shots?
Yeah, 22 shots for the Galaxy in this one.
Yeah, so he did as much as he could, and you're not going to get all of them. And you still got to be like, all right, we're going to be all right.
Yeah. Well, and like, this is at least the second time, maybe the third time, I feel like, for Memo, where like he's had a chance at the end of the game to like make a very impactful finish, and just hasn't been able to get one to go.
Yep.
So like I'm not holding that against him, man, but like, if you can just finish, like if you finish the one in Dallas or you finish the one here, like there's just no shot. And that missed directly, the same one with Dallas, right?
Yep.
Not finishing that play. And again, Johnny ended up being the one that took the shot on that play in Dallas, but the next fucking play we get scored on. It's a wild game. It's a cruel game.
It is a mean game.
90th minute here. And I got to say, man, I know you and I were not happy about this sub in the moment in the 90th minute. I did not see Danny cramping or calling to come off, but apparently that's what happened. I couldn't really see on the replay, but that's what was reported. That not just Danny, but Jhojan Valencia as well were cramping and had asked to come out. So if that's the case, then okay. Yeah.
Yeah, you have to.
Yeah. And the guys that come in, you got to be able to hold a lead. It's not like, I don't know, especially if those guys, you want more playing time, you can't. And it's a team game. There's not one guy that subbed in who's responsible for this not being 3 points here.
Just got to close it out. It doesn't matter who you are, what spot on the bench you're on. We had to find a way to close it out, and we didn't.
9 minutes of stoppage time, which at the time in the stadium, I was like, what?
Yeah.
But it makes sense. There was a lot of stoppage there in the game, not just in the second half. 3rd minute stoppage here. Galaxy corner gets whipped in. Yoshida gets his head to it after beating Leo to the spot. Stuver gobbles that one up, but then the next minute, Jonathan Perez down that right side, whips it high towards that back post, and Michael Barrios runs under it and taps it past Stuver to equalize. At that point, I'm just hoping we don't give up the fucking fourth and lose it outright. Right. And on this play, man, like I'm not sure. Again, we don't have to run to assign blame to every little thing that happens bad to this club. Sometimes it's just competition. It's sports. Like sometimes you have to credit the other team.
Of course.
But I do think Leo could probably do better to prevent that cross from coming in. And then I'm not sure if I think it's partially on Memo for not being able to keep up with Barrios on that backside. But I'm just not sure. He on the replay looked like he was the man that was marking him and came in 4 or 5 yards behind him when Barrios finishes that shot. The Galaxy just had more juice at the end to close it out, and at the end of the day, man, I think we got what we deserved in that one.
I agree. I think they wanted it more. I think that they wanted it more, and that's a huge point for them as Mooch gets up here. And man, it's just. Yeah, try to find something good to say about it, but there's nothing good about a point right now.
Nope.
You have 3-1 at home. You're in the biggest fight of this club's history, and for us not to be able to close it out is utterly disappointing. And I understand all of the frustrations that's going on here, and it almost feels like a lost season at this point. Mm-hmm. And again, like you said, any sort of reality that's injected into our dying playoff hopes really makes it look bleak. And 3 points would have gone a long, long way here. And you look at the table, and like you said, mathematically, there's a route, there's an avenue to that baseline point where we know from past seasons that's a team that gets in or is in 9th place.
Yeah.
with the expanded playoffs here. So just a really disappointing effort to not close that out.
Yeah. Man, the last play of the match is Michael Barrios free at the top of the box, just ripping a shot with Stuver rooted to the spot, and it goes wide. So again, like very much could have lost, by a foot. Could have lost that game 4-3. So again, the point, again, mathematically keeps you alive to where you win the last 4 games, which cannot help but laugh to suggest that. You win the last 4 games, you are absolutely in the wild card, potentially even jumping up to the 7 seed, depending on what happens. That would put you on 47 points. Even if you get 9, you win 3 of these last 4 matches, that puts you on 44, and 43.3 has been the average for the 9 seed over the last few seasons. Again, since this league has expanded to have at least 9 teams in a conference. So again, I think the 8 gets you to 43, which I don't think, with the way everything is so congested here, I don't think 43 does it this year. 44 may get you the 9 seed. But really, I mean, especially against Colorado this weekend, Driussi or not, anything short of 3 points, you can pack it up.
That might get the coach fired for sure.
Yeah, well, and let's talk about that here in a second. 61% possession for the Galaxy in this game, which was identical actually to the Red Bulls. Obviously, we were trying to let the Red Bulls have the ball a little bit there on Wednesday, but 2 games in a row, massive possession differential there in favor of our opponent. 22 shots to 13 in favor of the Galaxy, 11 to 6 on target, also in favor of the Galaxy. 11 of Austin's 13 shots came from inside the box. We were even on corners, 8 apiece. 2.59 XG for the Galaxy to 2.15 for Austin in FOTMob's model, and you take away the penalty, non-penalty XG, 2.15 for Austin, 1.81 for the Galaxy, which I think feels about right to me.
Yeah, whatever model, that seems about right.
Yeah. So yeah, man, I mean, we've kind of talked about the overall points of the playoff picture, and though the team is not, you don't have that little lowercase e next to the name yet in the standing. It sure feels like it.
I don't know what. I mean, like, you got to beat LAFC,
Yeah. Well, and I've been beating anybody at this point, bro.
Yeah, we got to beat Colorado.
And look, and like you just said, man, if you lose at Colorado, and I don't care if you have 10 or not. I don't. Again, I think we've maintained since the Burrell hire that whatever he thinks is going to be what we think. So, but I feel like if we lose this coming Saturday, and we'll preview Colorado's match, we don't need to get too much into that, or the Colorado match. We don't need to cover that right now, but I almost expect him to fire Josh at that point. Yeah. And who the fuck could complain?
No, I would not be surprised. I mean, I remember a couple of weeks back when we had Tommy on here, Bogert, and he was talking about the whole situation with Roto and everything. And we were like, do you see him being fired before the season is over? And he said that it would completely shock him unless we had a catastrophic collapse, which we have had.
Yep.
And, and when you're losing like this and continuously losing, the trust in the system, the trust in the coach just begins to erode with every game. And it can be near impossible to get back. And it's a long road. And I know that, we have a bunch of GAM and we have a bunch of money ready to go for next season, this next window. And that's great. But that just kind of lays credence to the lost season here, lost opportunity. If it's time for fresh faces, it's time for fresh faces. I just want to win games. I don't care who's the head coach. I don't care who's the left winger. I don't care who's on the sports equipment team. Like, I just want to win games. And I think that Roto gives us the best chance to do that with whatever decision he makes. So I'm going to trust in him because I know that, he's forgotten more about soccer in a day than I have ever known.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. So we'll see, man. Of course, like even once we get eliminated, because it just feels like the foregone conclusion at this point, we're still going to be at the Q. We're still going to be watching the games, still going to be here, talking all things Austin FC. And there's going to be more seasons, in the future that are disappointing like this. I hope they're few and far between, but especially just and maybe some of the parity evaporates if the league makes some rule changes. And I think this ownership group has proven that they're willing to spend, given the extensions that they gave out, whether they were good for the long-term health of the budget sheet or not. We know that they're, Anthony Precourt made a point to talk about not exactly how much he paid Roto, but to say we don't have a salary cap here, kind of pointing to how much they probably had to throw at Rodolfo Borrell to get him over here to Austin. We'll preview Colorado's match on Thursday's episode. Let's talk last business day. Before we do, that Colorado match, of course, on that night, Saturday, 7 p.m. the start time for the Fighting Pollo Pills release party over there at Austin Beer Works. So make sure, if you're not traveling up to Colorado, and I don't know, maybe some fans may have canceled that trip, who knows, after the way we've been playing the last couple of months, make sure you come over to Austin Beer Works, support those guys, support the, what they're doing there for the Community First Village.
It sounds like
the merch is pretty damn cool too.
The designs are great. It sounds like it's going to be a really sweet event.
So real quick, touching on last business day here, decision day, we talked about, what FCito needed to do to secure that third seed, and our kind of, I don't know if we call them worries, but our speculation that Damian Las may not be with this team came true. So you did see the first career start at the next pro level for Spencer Sanderson, who will be off to, I believe, University of Virginia next year to begin his collegiate career. The rest, no
Get
doubt.
a couple of next pro games in, then go to college.
Absolutely. And we also had Nico Aristizabal. Nico, I apologize if I'm messing up the last name there, and Greg Monroe. Both of those young goalkeepers signed to amateur agreements. Nico was the goalkeeper for the GA Cup winning team, if I recall correctly, the U15s. Kind of that I won't say iconic picture, but the popular picture of him celebrating after winning one of the many penalty shootouts that they won out there earlier this year. So both of them were on the bench. We had Sanderson in net, back line of Anthony Deonda, Sally Maz, Joe Hafferty, and Czech Toure. Rest of the lineup, Alonso, Bobo, Val, David, EJ, and AOC continuing to get the starts up top for this team. Cristo, Pinot, Charlie Asensio, John Santillan, Steve, Leo Torres, and Chris Pinkham rounded out the bench there. And it ended up, again, I only watched the first 60 minutes of this match. It got delayed twice on Sunday afternoon there up in Arlington. One thing I did not realize is that North Texas SC plays in the old ballpark in Arlington, which has now been turned into a football and soccer multi-purpose stadium. They've got these giant stands in where the outfield used to be. You can see the home run porch out there in right field still. As a Rangers fan, I did not know that that's what was happening there now. I still haven't been up to the new stadium they built. It was a little jarring for me to realize that's where they were playing. And maybe it was a little jarring for our boys too, because North Texas, pretty much controlled this game right from the rip. 2 goals in the first half, first from Endeli and then Avayevu, which Spencer Sanderson, I didn't feel like we really got to see what the kid could do, because these shots were, I don't know if anybody's getting to this shot. Powerful strikes, top corner, both of them. And just, especially the first one, right off a turnover, 1-2 touch, boom, goal. Like, almost didn't know what hit you. At least that's how it felt to me. And it kind of looked like on the broadcast, just kind of took a punch early and never recovered.
We have not recovered from losing CJ. We have not recovered from the absence of, not having Damian is massive. No Kippy. We just have not been able to find that spark that made this team really great and just super hot to start this season. And it's tailed off pretty hard here. And, the thing that's most concerning is the defense has looked pretty poor. And, that's what we hung our hat on all season. And, it was such a promising day on Sunday. Excuse me. It was such a promising day to potentially have decision day and be able to pick our own opponent and get a home playoff game for the Next Pro boys who I think really deserved a home playoff game in front of the best FC2 fans, or excuse me, Next Pro fans in the league. And then to have the Galaxy game, but none of it went our way. And it seems that this FC2 club is, taking a bit after the big boys.
Right. Shit, man. I mean, right out of the half, 29 seconds into the second half, Jose Mulatto squirts one past Spencer Sanderson, 3-0. And Sebastian Pino does come on later on, and he gets one in right before that second weather delay. But 3-1 was the final in favor of North Texas. And as you mentioned, Sporting KC2 able to get up to 49 points. I believe they won in a shootout fashion against St. Louis City 2. Yeah, 1-1 in regulation. And then if St. Louis City 2 would have won that shootout, Austin FC 2 would have been the third seed, but not to be. So finishing the regular season, 49 points from the 28 matches played, 12 wins, 9 draws, 7 losses, 40 goals for to just 23 against. So again, this last stretch here that's been rough does not define or does not take away everything, all the work that this team did in its various forms throughout this season. But again, this is a team that has not won a match since August 30th when they defeated the Quakes 2-0. There has been, I believe, 6 matches since then, 3 outright losses, and then 3 draws that went to the PK shootout. So don't get to pick our opponent this morning. And I was actually discussing with on Twitter with Landon and Jeremiah and Mike Corniola, kind of saying like, we might get picked here today. And that's exactly what happened. Tacoma and Sporting KC2 were the 2 teams that got to choose their opponents from the pool of 4 that included Austin FC, St. Louis City 2, Quakes 2, and Dynamo 2. Tacoma picked Houston first, so Tacoma will host Houston. And then Sporting KC2 picks Austin FC 2. So Austin will not host a first-round match. They will travel to play SKC 2 this Friday. We'll preview that match on Thursday's episode, but kickoff of that one scheduled for 7 p.m. Central. So I know everybody going to be watching from afar and cheering the boys on, hoping to advance. Because if I'm reading this bracket right, we need a lot to go right. We need to get a win, whether it's regulation or in a shootout. And if Dynamo Dos somehow goes up to the Pacific Northwest and upsets the Tacoma Defiance, there would be a Copa Tejas clash at the pitch in the Western Conference semifinal round. So that is, I believe, the only path to Austin FC 2 hosting a playoff match here in this first postseason experience for the club. So we'll preview that SKC 2 match on Thursday. Let's close it out, E, unless you had anything else to add with the nonsense here. Okay, go ahead.
Teacher. Look, it's the end of the regular season. Time to reflect a little bit on the year. These boys played out of their minds to start the season, and we had our full roster. And at this point in the season, we don't. And I had speculated for a long time if that's how this team was going to eventually look here at the end. So I do want to say, hats off to them for a wonderful season. In the playoffs for the first time, like that's a great accomplishment. And now that book is closed, and we open up the first playoff chapter, and a team that has had our number this year. And I would take it a certain type of way by being picked by them, and I hope that they do. And it's going to be a tough place to play. We know SKC is a good club, SKC2, excuse me.
Yeah.
I'm rooting for the team. I still love those boys. I still love that team so much. I know it's a disappointing end of the season that nobody really wanted, but they put up a hell of a fight all season long.
Yeah. To be honest, man, I would love it if Matt Bersano was healthy, because we were speculating that in the midweek video we saw Bersano in practice, but he had his right elbow heavily taped up up his forearm, up to his bicep there. So it may be an injury that he's dealing with, and that's why Damian has been backing up Stuver. Man, just the way the season has gone, like put Damien with FC2. Like, let's try to make some noise there.
I was gonna say, yeah, I'm for that. Let him finish the job.
Yeah.
I mean, like, again, if it's a break in case of emergency situation where it's like, you can't play Brad, but it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
I know we need to get him real MLS time and minutes in front of the big stage and everything.
Right.
As Moods continues to try to make his bed. There we go. All right. But yeah, shit, man. Like, let's finish. Let's try to get something here. Some sort of silverware.
Well, the nonsense, I got to be honest, coming up a little short on my end here. I have not calculated how much we lost on the week 34 betting picks, E. We did hit 2. We hit the FC Cincinnati at home against Charlotte. That was minus 165. That was a 2-unit hammer. Sporting KC minus 105 against Houston. They come through even though they were a man down for over an hour in that one. We miss on Austin, of course, and Driussi did not score. Nashville drew, so do not hit the plus 220. Dallas plus 155. They got a draw with Columbus. And then the NFL teaser streak has come to a close. And, man, if it's got to be the Ravens, my divisional rivals, I'm fine with that. Cowboys also picking up an L against the Arizona Cardinals. I guess just for a second, do you think that's more that the Cowboys had an off day, or are the Cardinals a little bit better than we thought? What do you think?
I think the Cardinals are a little better than we thought. But I mean, we thought that they were like really fucking bad. So they're not really fucking bad. But Dallas
could just be really bad.
Yeah. Dallas was asleep, man. And they were hurt. They were banged up on the O-line. And yeah, the Diggs injury probably, took a little wind out of the sails there.
Sure.
So, humble pie. Sometimes we got to eat it.
Yeah.
We've been eating ours. Me and you, I'm surprised we haven't gotten fat yet. All the humble pie we've been eating.
I'm putting a couple pounds on. There's no doubt about that. But E, the positivity continues in the best ball streets. Northern Podcast doesn't take down the week. That honor goes to Texas Ring of Fire, who are surging in the standings. Have not moved yet out of that. We don't have a wooden spoon here, but 4th position out of 4 teams. They get 64 points. That is the 3rd highest weekly score for any team this season and sets a new record for them by 7 points over their previous weekly high score. 64 points on the week behind 20 from Christian Benteke with his hat trick, 16 from Lucho Acosta. We had 54, so 10 points off Texas Ring of Fire this week, but we'll still take it. 11 from Kai Wagner, 10 from Ricky Pooch, unfortunately. 9 each from Timu Puki and Aaron Bupenza. 39 for Moon Tower, who I was really nervous this week because Alvaro Barrial got 14 for Cincinnati. They got 9 from Carlos Heel. But then the rest of the team kind of falls flat. Only 39 points for Moon Tower on the week, which we will take for sure. Yeah. And we are Austin 38 points on the week. Another team I thought they were going to have a big one when we see Yorgos Yakumakis go for 12, Thiago Almada go for 13. Rest of the team really nowhere to be found for them. So still a tough run of form for their best ball team. Looking at the overall standings, Northern Podcast increased their overall lead 1397, Moon Tower in second 1371. So look, I'm not going to poke the bear. We know how powerful their roster has been. Like, I'm not talking shit till it's over in this instance. We are still in third, 1267. Texas Ring of Fire closing that gap, 1238. So just 29 points behind third place now. They've got some time to make up that gap. And, dude, they haven't had Messi for how many game weeks now? Pretty impressive.
Have they scored the most points since we did the summer transfer window?
To be honest, I have not done any sort of like small sample size analysis there. It would be really close between us and them because, again, we've had in the last – what's that?
They've been so hot too, yeah.
No, they've been hot. I mean, I can just look over the last, 8 weeks here. Texas Ring of Fire has, of course, the 64 from this week. They have exceeded 51 points in 4 other weeks. Over that same sample, though, we have exceeded 62 points 3 times and over 50 in 4 others, with a 26 in there, week 24. That was coming out of the League's Cup break. So there was our anomaly week there. But yeah, coming down to it in the best ball league and, little preview. this league will be expanding next year to include some other participants. So going to get even tougher, the competition here in the Verde Best Ball League. So that wraps up the nonsense. Actually, no, we want to pick the games. There's 2 games in MLS tomorrow night. There's also, and we haven't talked about this yet, E, so we can do this on the fly. Let's make our 2 MLS picks, and then let's look at CONCACAF Champions League, US Open Cup final between Houston and Miami tomorrow. We will find those odds as we go here. I'll toss it to you to make the first of just 2 MLS picks here in the midweek picks.
Well, we're going to go to the perfect bet with Dallas. This is a makeup game, right?
I believe so, yes.
I'm pretty sure it's
I think it's from Leagues Cup when Philly had advanced, and
Correct.
They postponed that game.
Yes. So we're gonna leverage the happiness again. Plus 350 for FC Dallas at Philly. Tough place to play, tough place to get a win. We'll take it if they lose, and we'll take the units if they do. Pull it off.
Absolutely. I will take the Vancouver Whitecaps. They are at Colorado here in the midweek. They're plus 120. And Vancouver very much needing a win as well. So we're going to 2-unit hammer them at plus 120 against Colorado. And then Inter Miami minus 120, Dynamo plus 260 out there in the Open Cup final. I think I saw that Messi and Jordi Alba were still not at training, I think, this morning. So what are you thinking there?
I saw that Messi would probably be a game time decision. That's what Tata said.
Okay.
They had to have been, I feel like they had to have been saving him for this, especially if he was a little dinged up. Obviously, he's been playing a lot of soccer. But if they don't have him, Houston might be walking away with some silverware and making our year even worse.
Yeah. So what do you think? Do we just hedge our happiness, our rivalry? Do we pick Houston to win this here?
I think Messi's going to play just the way we probably showed a little gamesmanship yesterday with Seba and, not dropping that injury report until as late as we could. I think that might be what's going on with Miami there as well. So I'm going to take Miami. I'm going to go with Miami.
All right. I like it. Miami.
Awesome.
Yeah. Excited to watch that one for sure. So we'll take Miami minus 120. So Miami minus 120, Dallas plus 350, and Vancouver 2-unit hammer plus 120 at Colorado. Those are the week 35 betting picks. And that will close out episode 93 of the North End podcast. If you've got 5 extra seconds to rate, review, and subscribe to the podcast, wherever you get your podcast, we would greatly appreciate it. And if you've got a buddy who likes Austin FC and they like podcasts, why don't you recommend the North End podcast? Get us into your friends' content rotation. Help us grow the pod in that fashion. And if you're watching on the YouTube channel, you can hit the subscribe button. That also helps us grow the podcast. You can hit the notification bell to know when a live stream pops up or a new episode goes live. And of course, on this episode, hit that thumbs up button, like the video, help us battle the YouTube algorithm overlords, atone for your sins, wash yourselves clean in the waters of the North End. We will be back on Thursday previewing Austin FC's road trip out to Colorado, previewing Austin FC 2's first ever playoff matchup against SKC2, and talking everything else in between. Thanks again for joining us. We hope to see you guys on Thursday. Until then, easy. I'm Zach. Vamos Austin FC, everybody. Goodbye.